Dieting sucks and so does restriction. We're coming into the time of the year that makes it feel almost impossible to eat healthy. And I'm here to tell you that if you've ever been on a diet that's failed, it likely wasn't your fault. Let's chat about why it wasn't really your fault and some tactics you can take this holiday season to help you sort out your cravings and still enjoy things. And let's do it while I make a batch of my family's favorite Christmas bar, sometimes called cracker toffee depending on where you live. So if you've never heard of the scarcity effect, it's a psychological phenomenon that makes people place higher value on an object that's perceived as scarce and lower value on objects that are perceived as abundant. And a lot of times our diets focus on things that we need to take out, and it turns out that our brains don't really like that. The more we restrict ourselves from the things we want, the more our brains want the things we're restricting. So I have a couple of tips to help our brains not feel so restricted while still allowing yourself to indulge. Tip 1 is to look for things that you can add to your diet. This goes for the typical healthy things in your diet and also the typical unhealthy things that you just want to indulge on. If you're having trouble eating your veggies and fruit, then look at what you can add to make them more palatable. Whether it's cheese, butter, nut butter, dips, yogurt, spices, or sauces, think about what you can add. And when it comes to the typical unhealthy things that you just want to eat, think about what you can add to those. If you're craving chips and crackers, pair them with fiber, fat, and protein in the form of cottage cheese, sour cream, nut butters, yogurt, or bean dip. If you're craving M&Ms or a candy bar, pair it with some nuts. When you pair your carbs with fiber, fat, and protein, you're going to feel fuller, faster, and longer, and you're not going to feel like you need to eat the whole box or bag. Tip number 2 is delay, don't deny. Some foods are for enjoyment, some foods are for nourishment, and some foods are both. All are important, but the problem comes when we try to nourish ourselves with sweets. If we're trying to nourish ourselves with sweets, we'll be much more likely to spike our insulin, which will put you on the insulin glucose roller coaster. And we're also much more likely to eat more than we would if we were eating for just enjoyment rather than for satiation. So here's the tip. Don't tell yourself that you're not going to eat those things. Tell yourself you're going to eat them later. Because as we learned, our brains don't like that. Just tell yourself you're going to wait until after your meal. At that point, you'll have a lot better handle on your hunger cues. Tip 3 is a bonus round if you love making treats like I do. I like to make this Christmas bar because it's so gosh dang delicious and super easy. The best way to make sure that I don't eat too much of it is I make a batch, eat what I want, and then I take it to family and friends. So let me know what you think of these tips in the comments and head to the caption for my recipe.